And we have 4 voting members now. So, all right, you can start.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And the first item is roll call. Could you, Rose, quickly do that?
Yes, and meeting was called to order at 11:21. And we have Commissioner Diana Cuddy-Eye. Commissioner Gishi is not here. And Commissioner Meg Kabodi Adekai will be joining around 12. Co-Chair Phillips. Co-Chair Phillips. I know she's on. Are you having trouble with unmuting? We'll come back to her. And then Co-Chair Washington.
Here.
Commissioner Marks.
I'm here.
Commissioner Toya.
Here.
And Commissioner Weathersby will be excused absent today. Commissioner Whitehat is not here. And Commissioner Yellowhair will join at 12. There you go.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Our first item is the land acknowledgement. I'll go ahead and read that. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. Public comment. Is any member from the public here that would like to make a comment to the commission? If not, we'll go to approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? I will go ahead and make that motion to approve the minutes for April 6th. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed say nay. Is anyone abstaining? Okay, the motion carries for approval of the minutes. We're now to the water services invitation and update.
Good morning, Indigenous commissioners. My name is Erin Young. I'm the Water Resources Manager. I've met a couple of you through the community stakeholder work on reclaimed water. It's probably 2 years ago now. But Rose, thank you for inviting me to invite you commissioners for reclaimed water facility tours. We did start tours again after COVID just a couple months ago. The easiest way would be Rose, either you or I could facilitate a day and time that works for all who want to attend. And then I can organize that with our Rio de Flag water reclamation staff and our Wildcat Hill water reclamation staff. So we have 2 wastewater treatment facilities. And, you know, seeing the facilities and learning about the wastewater treatment process will be an advantage when it comes time to talking about reclaimed water policy again, which is the next bullet item. Any questions about touring the facilities? Okay, not hearing any.
I do have a comment, maybe a question. This is
Yes.
Commissioner Toya. I just wanted to know if your preference is for us to go as a group, or are we doing this individually as if we're interested?
Well, I think our preference is a group. If everyone would want to go, it's easier to maybe, for our staff to give one tour instead of maybe 5 or 6. Maybe we could get an idea right now of how many are interested, and if only a couple of you are interested, we could do the tours one-on-one.
Sure. Oh, the reason I'm asking is because I am definitely interested. So count
Awesome.
me in. Alrighty. Thank you.
I am interested as well.
There's only 4 voting members here, so I'm pretty sure that other commissioners would be interested as well. So we'll probably do a poll.
Okay. Well, I'll follow up with you, Rose, then to work on like a doodle poll.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And for commissioners who were not part of the process, the Community Stakeholder Committee on Reclaimed Water 2 years ago, that was Flagstaff's Water Services kind of first attempt at revisiting reclaimed water policy in quite a while. For those of you not familiar, Water Services has water policy. I'll send a link to the policy in the chat. And we have city code that determines, how we issue reclaimed water agreements and such. That effort was really valuable. We had a lot of great discussions and got a lot of great feedback from the 10 to 12 participants. But we definitely need to kind of launch a phase 2 effort. And we just have been kind of plagued with a lot of turnover with essential staff positions that need to be part of those efforts, including our director, our engineering manager, being 2 of the most important positions to participate, and then myself. But now we're pretty motivated to get this thing rolling again. We'll definitely extend the invitation to commissions to participate in that effort. We need to come up with a scope of work that is inclusive of the community, but with a lot of the work on the policy occurring through the commission landscape and not necessarily out in the community. So we want the commission, the Water Commission, to kind of be the focal point of developing a scope of work and then how we get the community input. So as we develop that, I'll certainly keep the Indigenous Commission and other city commissions in the loop on that timeline. So that's what I have for an update, and I welcome any questions.
Does anyone
going
have any questions?
I'm gonna open it to other members of the commission first. Then I do have a question. Daryl.
Yes, I guess the question that I have is, from your position, have you seen any changes in the last 2 to 3 years in the work that's being done? And I guess I know that in some of the work that was done a few years back, there was discussion about like what Flagstaff's water use was looking like. And I know personally, I've seen a lot of growth in Flagstaff, and I'm just wondering if if those projections that were shared a few years back are still what's projected, or are we looking at some dramatic changes?
So from 2 years ago, what was presented, I would say nothing is coming to mind that is like a staggering sort of change in water demand. The regional plan effort that you'll be hearing from Sarah Dector, we plan for water demand to meet the needs of the voter approved regional plan. So I think there's going to be a lot of talk about water supply with the regional plan effort. And you know, any decisions that might be made around zoning or decisions in the regional plan, you know, will have an impact on how much water is needed in the future. But I guess to go back to your question, Daryl, we've been pretty just, we haven't issued any new reclaimed water agreements. And I do have a new project that we're trying to launch through a Water Smart grant, the Bureau of Reclamation. We're trying to get money for aquifer recharge and recovery. We would have 2 new release points, kind of similar to the I-40 wetlands right now near Sam's Club. We would move release points upstream at Sinclair Wash and Bow and Arrow Wash to facilitate water flowing in the stream for a bit, but seeping into the ground and to the sea aquifer, which is what is happening now. We would just be moving it a little further up in the watershed. So that's one project that's happening since the time that we met.
Thank you.
Any other questions from other commissioners? I have a question. In terms of making who makes a decision to sell reclaimed water to other entities, I understand that at some point the city council made that a function of staff, so that reclaimed water contracts, they could, the staff could make a decision, and the staff could let contracts independently. I guess the council would probably have to ratify or approve that, but and I don't know if that's the case, or whether the staff can simply do that. I favor a policy where the city council is more involved in the selling of reclaimed water contracts, and that I would hope that at some point the city council adopt a new direction in that, and bring back the selling of reclaimed water contracts to the city council. So I guess my question is, am I correct that the staff has the ability to sell reclaimed water contracts? And 2, is there a possibility that that could be reverted back to the city council?
Yes, Mr. Washington, you're correct that the authority to issue new reclaimed water agreements does lie with the Water Services Director. And that conversation occurred a couple years ago with City Council for Council to take that on, and Council ultimately voted not to at that time. I think there is an outstanding fair item on this topic. I'd have to check. I would suggest, if the Indigenous Commission would like to see that on council agenda, maybe making a recommendation for that to be on council agenda, or perhaps for the Water Commission to also provide their thoughts on that topic.
Fawn, do you have a comment on that?
I do actually, and Joe, this is an appreciation to you to bringing this up at this moment, and Aaron, for your valuable comment there. as a commissioner, I strongly believe that we should request that this be brought up and find a new way to engage this subject. So I, at this moment, would, and if I could, make a motion to see if we can have this addressed to City Council and bring this matter back to the table if possible.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I second that motion.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the motion passes. Are there any other questions regarding reclaimed water?
So
Hearing-
Joe,
Yes.
sorry, I don't
Go ahead.
have a question, but Joe, can you just kind of, as a support, I'm asking from you, kind of guide us in this direction of the motion that I had just requested?
Yes, so I guess now it passed, and it would be up to staff to communicate to the city council that we would like to have this item on their agenda in a future meeting soon. And then I guess we just go from there. The council would then, having received that from the commission, could put it on an agenda item for a future council meeting.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you,
well,
everyone. Rose,
yes, thank you.
I'll follow up with you on the protocol maybe with Greg.
Yes, and Erin, when you do that, maybe we can just go in together or something and see what needs to happen.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin.
The next item on the agenda is the Flagstaff Regional Plan second visit.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing today?
Good.
I'm Sarah Dector. I am the Comprehensive and Neighborhood Planning Manager for the City of Flagstaff. I am going to put in the chat, if you'll remember, was it April, Rose, that I was here? I feel like it's been more than a month. I did
Yes.
a presentation for you all on the regional plan and what it is and why it's something that we'd like the commission's input on. And what I wanted to do today is bring you back the exercise that we discussed at that time of having you help the city look. Oops, sorry, I turned off my camera instead of sharing. The city is looking with many of the commissions at the current content of the regional plan. And I just put a link in a chat of a place where I'm going to direct you to go if you can right now. And if you are unable to join this digital whiteboard that I just put the link in the chat for because you're on a phone or something else, as we're discussing this, Rose and I can log in and we can add things that you may not be able to enter yourself. So let us know if you're able to get on, or if not. I can also share, if you're in a position where you're looking at your computer and you have your phone in your hand, you can also scan this QR code to join the discussion, or a place. It's kind of like a note-taking place is really what a digital whiteboard is. It's a place for us to kind of type up ideas as we're thinking and brainstorm together. But as I said, for all of you, if Rose is going to hop on with me, then she and I can also type up as we're discussing the regional plan a little bit. So I hope since my visit in April, you've had an opportunity to look at the Flagstaff regional plan. What we went over last time was that the plan is sparse on its discussion of our Indigenous community members and our relationships with the Indigenous communities that surround Flagstaff and are interwoven into our social fabric. And so there's a lot to add, possibly, to the regional plan. And I'm going to pull up what this will look like for you all. Ignore this part, but you guys will all see when you log into this website an opportunity to write up strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So we can start this discussion however you would like. I can see only that Rose and I are the only two who've logged in. So if you want to have this conversation verbally, then Rose and I will just type. And if you want to log in and do your own typing, that's up to you. But what we'd like to discuss is first the strengths and weaknesses of our current plan. And then also the opportunities that that revision brings. What is it that we could look for, hopefully, and want to see as we develop a new plan that is sent back to voters? And then maybe what are the threats? What are the things that might keep us from being able to accomplish all the pieces that we would want to in creating an inclusive and comprehensive vision for our community? So I can see Rose is typing something in the chat. Hopefully, this is something you've had a little time to think about, but I will open the floor and we can start anywhere. We can either start verbally anywhere in any of these quadrants that you like, or you can start typing. And I'll say I'm looking at it from a facilitator view. And so when you enter things, here, I'll go ahead and make this visible. It'll pop up on the screen, which is the results screen. I can see that Mark is typing away. Is there anything anybody would like to just talk about? You know, if you're not in a place where you can be easily typing at this time. Or do you have any questions about the regional plan? I'm happy to answer those as well. Pop this over. So here is some of the contributions that are coming in. I'll add that while everyone is typing, last night I had a work session with the City Council where we talked about what's coming next in this process of updating the regional plan. I think I mentioned last time the first thing we did was we had to figure out where everything was. So there's 180 pieces of data we have to look at to kind of pull the regional plan together. So we went out and found it all. And we started analyzing it this year so that we could figure out what's the story here. What is it that we need to have our eye on in terms of water, transportation, land use, natural resources, parks, open space, et cetera, et cetera. Some of that also is bringing together data that the county has about the surrounding areas of Belmont, Fort Valley, Donny Park, Mountain Air, and Kachina with city data and trying to make sense of it all. But what we're doing next is we'll start taking that into conversations throughout the community that discuss the vision that we have for a thriving Flagstaff community in 2045. We hope that that conversation will start with workshops in the fall. But after that, after we kind of gather all those values and attitudes and the data, we need a process to kind of stir it all up and make something of it. And so council last night discussed the collaborative process and what that could look like. And so they have given, there's funding coming in the next fiscal year for this. There's also a RSOQ that we will be able to put out, a request for proposals or a request for statement of qualifications that will ask for someone to help create this process with us. And that could include any community member with experience in facilitating collaborative services. And so that's an opportunity coming forward. And then also that the other piece they discussed was we asked council, are you interested in having a policy that pursues compensation for participants, which is an emerging practice of equity in urban planning that we wanted to put in front of council and tell them this is something that we see as an emerging opportunity. What do you think? Do you want to even have us look at this? Because legal and HR and the city manager and the communications department and everybody's going to want to look at a policy like that. And so one of the two things they asked of staff was, they said, one, they wanted to know if there was any research or case studies that we could get more in-depth information on. And then also they want to know all the legal ramifications. So we'll definitely be having an e-session on that. So if that is something you'd want to weigh in on too in the next few months, I expect that we'll go back to council in like August or September with the more information on compensation. They didn't commit, but they said, we want to understand how a compensation policy could help overcome barriers to participation. And we want to understand what will happen if we do, what all the ramifications of that are. We didn't want to spend staff time on that until we had a maybe from them. So I'd say I got a good maybe from them last night, and that's something too that now we'll start looking for input on as well. So if you feel that's a topic that the Indigenous members of our community would want to be involved in discussing, or even be involved in helping set up the collaborative process, that's another, maybe an opportunity that is new and emerging for what we're working on now. Great, so you can see everybody's adding good information. Rose, would you have any thoughts? I know you've looked at the regional plan a little bit too over the last month.
Well, I think in some of the things that we had talked about was that, you know, it really had a lot to do with the length of time that that input is being gathered and whatnot. So I think that if we do, I was thinking, well, actually, I was listening to your presentation last night and just having people say, well, it can be counted as income. There's like maybe some things that could be a barrier in having city navigate that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think that if we're going to do that, what I know that with W-9s, that things are not counted from one source as income until it reaches 600 or more. So I can't imagine really spending that much money on one person within the year. So I think those are some things that can be overcome, and to be realistic, just say, you know, it could be potentially income, but only if it reaches that threshold. So having those kinds of ways to prevent weaknesses would be a good thing, especially when Mayor Evans used to say that we're all here because we can afford to be here. We have a whole other population who can't be here because they're working 2 or 3 jobs, trying to make sure they provide for their family. And they're just as valuable. Their input is just as valuable. So I think if we put something on the table, I think that is a good thing to do. And I think the strengths of the current plan really has to do with the input that it's received. And a lot of it was not received from Indigenous populations. So I think we have a real opportunity to really be involved from the get-go. Even if we have like some sort of surveys that we can take to family members and friends who can fill them out and then turn them back into you.
I do have a visioning survey available right now on the city's community forum. I don't know if the commissioners are very familiar with that, but I also have a paper copy version of it if there was a preference for folks who wanted to offer it on paper to folks. But if you go to flagstaffaz.gov/FCF, which is the Flagstaff Community Forum, there's a regional plan visioning survey there right now. And that's available for folks to share. we usually ask the commission members don't take it and show your name, because if people knew you were, it could be considered an electronic quorum, but there's always an option to like have name not shown. So if you did go on, make sure you don't share any of your personal information and you fill it out anonymously. Others who aren't on a commission can go and fill it out however they wish.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Much like
So-
this, we have this digital opportunity, but we have to carefully manage it so that quorum rules and digital opportunities do not go astray. They've got to stay lined up for commissions. So I greatly appreciate our clerk who keeps me very on track.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of input here. I see also Daryl typed a question in the chat. I don't know if you want to unmute Daryl and ask your question, or if you just want me to read it. Commissioner Marks.
Sorry about that. Yeah, question is there opportunity for canvassing or sharing this information with folks that don't have access to the website or don't have, like what Rose had shared earlier, the capacity to be able to take the time because of work? Is there opportunities to get that information out to folks in a meaningful way?
Sure, there absolutely is. And I have, for the survey at least, I have paper copies for the survey. I also am planning, we will be at a lot of community events this summer with booths. So we've kind of already started, but if there are specific events that the commission would like to see us attend as a planning team, we'd also be really open to getting that feedback. I am on it right now, calling people and getting space and getting set up. What we're doing at most events is we're bringing, got it right here, I'm bringing a little iPad with the survey and some paper copies so people can do that with us right there, and we're meeting them where they are. I'm also, our team is also setting up an art box table where we have had Sonia London Hall, who is an educator and artist in Flagstaff, create learning boxes where people can sit down and paint or create collages or do other kind of artwork with us while we talk about the plan, based on different topics like open space, water. Erin and her staff helped us get into the STEAM event that FUSD did last month, and we had a lot of people doing watercolors with us and talking about water resources in the community in a really different way. So those are kind of our two canvassing methods. We kind of have a right brain one and a left brain one, if that's how you think about the world, one that's very creative and tactile, and one that's more of the mind and of the heart. And so we're hoping that those things will give people that opportunity. So if you think there's somewhere we should be as a team, that would be great to know. I know right now we are signed up for the Coconino County Fair, several of the concerts in the parks, which I know are happening all over Flagstaff this summer, not just at Cullen and Bushmaster. I think Mobile Haven Park and a few others are going to be places to go and hear some live music and also sit down with us. We are also, I'm trying to think of what the other events, we're going to be at Juneteenth, and I'm still waiting to hear back on getting into the Tardiada in August. If there are other places you think this would be a great place for us to be in terms of reaching the Indigenous community, please let me know. And also I should say that I'm hoping that part of what we will be doing in this collaborative process is pulling in people to be ambassadors for the planning process in some way. It may not be incredibly, it might be in different forms depending on who we bring aboard for helping lead that collaborative process. This is a big project that has to reach 90,000 people, so I can't be the project manager and the collaborative process lead at the same time. I just need to, there's only so much of my time that's capable of doing all of that. And so I'm hoping that we'll have some assistance like we have had with Thorpe Park. But I'm hoping we'll have that opportunity for people to kind of sign up to really be part of the outreach team. And so we're definitely looking for who's interested in taking on that role as well. And that might be part of the compensation piece as well. So some of that stuff's a little in the air, but we're definitely working on pinning down the details and getting getting that pulled together. So I don't know if you want to go over this quickly, but the things you guys have put in here, I think are good central pieces that inform our public engagement. Has a lot of the plan has a lot of strong voices on participation from the public, but not strong Indigenous voices because there wasn't as much of an effort to improve their access to the process. And I think that even that's definitely something I've heard from Supervisor Fowler, who I think her and Supervisor Ryan are the only two people left on the Board of Supervisors who were there when we were doing this 8 or 9 years ago. And so they both said that they really felt that was important. So thank you. I definitely know that's part of what we're keeping in mind now. But managing time and making sure people don't lose interest, inclusion of Indigenous communities in the project projections, identifying our environmental impacts and yields. Whoever wrote that, would you please expand on environmental yields and what that list looks like to you when you think of that phrase? I can pull it up.
So, yeah, what I was thinking about was, seeing that this plan was put together, years ago, and looking at how much growth has happened in the area, and then of course seeing that we're, in the midst of a drought, and looking at how fire and flooding has threatened our areas. I'm just wondering, how has that been factored into the plan? And are there needs to get alterations or changes made? And then are we including the voices of our communities that aren't familiar with what the plan looked like, and then but are familiar and have been able to witness the changes that are taking place now?
Great, thank you. That's very helpful, Commissioner Marks, just to make sure that when I go back and look at this again, that we capture your idea fully here. What I will say is we did have two very exciting webinars on fire, flooding, and emergency management, because I do think we've had some really serious events of that occur in the community within the region, both in the city and the county. And I know that people are feeling very mindful of that in particular. It's going to be part of what we look forward to. We're still trying to figure out how to really build a robust part of that resiliency. We've been looking at some grants. There's some really exciting tools that we hope we can share with folks. Sometimes what I find is that getting people who are unfamiliar with the plan to have some interest in it is not very hard once you explain to them how the plan gets used. I think that those who are unfamiliar with the plan sometimes feel like the decision making in the city is mysterious. And sometimes I've shown them the plan and they said, well, why did the city do X? And I say, well, our plan has this, and here's why this was approved and why this was proposed. And the plan has that ability to be a central place. So when we have those why questions, we have somewhere to go back to, and the rationale all ties together. And that's why it's so important to get voices from a broad spectrum of the community, and especially those who haven't participated previously or have been reluctant to participate because they aren't sure what the payoff is, and bringing them on board early. So that's just my thoughts on share with that as I'm working through the project. I like thank you for adding the diverse communities and protection of community diversity. We are trying to figure out youth input. That's another area where if you have great ideas, I am looking for great ideas. We were trying to work with the library, but sadly library staffing right now doesn't really allow us to work through them to get more youth output, but we're going to start looking for community partners on that as well. We're sort of starting with the library, and I have plans to reach out to Boys and Girls Club and a few other groups to see what we can do to get those conversations started. So if you know of other community organizations that would be really excited to work with us on youth outreach, that's coming as well. I see too that having multiple Indigenous Nation members to provide input. Can I ask a question about that? I don't know who put in this one. Rose did. So Rose, when you say multiple nation members input, do you mean individuals from those nations who are part of the community in this region, or do you mean representatives of those nations?
I would
Just
say both.
both. Okay.
I would say both because they all have a vested interest in the area up here at, you know, northern Arizona, and of course, whatever affects Flagstaff trickles out to outlying areas.
Thank you for clarifying that. That helps me too. Because in a month when I look at these, I have to remember what we were thinking. And then the threats are not doing enough to give people who lack access input and not enough Indigenous input and involvement. I want to ask this question of all of you. Oh, yes. Commissioner Mark said he's going to help us get into schools. That will be excellent. I'm also meeting with Mike Penka, Superintendent Penka, this week to have that conversation as well. So maybe you and I need to have an offline conversation this week because that's definitely on my to-do list. Well, I would like to hear from the commissioners before I trade it back to Rose of, could you imagine what a successful outreach to the Indigenous community would look like? And tell me maybe some of the things that would, as a person who's not from that community, that I would look for to show me that we are succeeding. I guess, like, so what does success look like there? Though I have some ideas, I'd love to hear from you. And you don't have to type it in here. You could just unmute and tell me. What would it look like if we were leading a process, bringing in Rose, bringing in the commission, bringing in IPAC, which I'm working on later this month, and the process were successful? Like, what would we have done? How would it feel? What would we be hearing from the community that would tell us, ha, we did it?
I think you could see a diverse participation from young people to our elder participating. And then from that, you're going to get a lot of questions. You'll get a lot of feedback from both generations or through that spectrum. And I think also you'll see if the process continues and has some dependency or some frequency, you'll see more participation, and you'll see that the community recognizes and acknowledges that you're not coming in just to extract information, but you're there to build community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Marks. That was well said. I really appreciate that thought. This is Rose. Oh, from what I feel, I think that is there, I guess, a question. Is there a way to self-identify in any of these portals or surveys or anything that just says that, you know, would you be willing to identify who you are? And I think that in that way you can see, you know, people saying, yes, I'm Indigenous, I'm Navajo, I'm Hopi, you know, those kinds of things.
We've been discussing that, Rose, because you know, I think you guys know I presented on the census to you before. I'm very involved in the census, and one thing we've seen as a trend in the last 5 years or so, especially, is people not wanting to identify race and ethnicity when we send out anonymous surveys. And so people will just would rather not answer at much higher rates than they did 10 or 15 years ago. That doesn't mean it's not worth asking, but it's made us a little reluctant to put it on a survey. But it would be good to find out how people want to give us that information so that it feels like a safe way to do it. Somehow I feel like there's something about having an anonymous survey that should make you feel safe about sharing that information from my perspective, but I see that there are others who feel that's not a safe place to share their identity information. And so it's, yeah, I think how to shape that question, how to ask it, what venues to ask it in, so that it's effective would be is something I'm trying to be really thoughtful about. I don't have an answer. I just have been thinking about it with my staff, and we've been thinking, let's not just put the standard census questions on there because it just doesn't feel like the most important part of the information we'd want to receive when asking that kind of question. Does that make sense? Or did I just blabber my way through a thought?
I like Commissioner Marks's question is, input is perhaps questions that are culturally based or reflective of Indigenous identity.
Yeah, that is the thing that I think we will, maybe that's something that this group can help me with a little bit or send me some thoughts on. I think I saw Commissioner Yellowhair at one point raise his hand as
I
we were
did.
having a conversation.
Yeah, so my main thing, when you talk about like the success of programs, I think a lot of folks who are not Indigenous get caught up in like the potential for impact, and like, oh, here's this massive impact in this community. But to go off of what my brother Daryl said, same thing, I think a lot of it is about longevity. In our communities, a lot of times people will come in and do helicopter research, kind of get what they want, do the pre and post survey, and things will fade out. Grants will end, things like that, and people kind of move on. And I think the test of it really is, having an Indigenous presence, but also building things with longevity, within, I think a big part of that is, of course, incorporating Indigenous voices. And to comment on the last piece and regarding these surveys and these questions, Daryl's right, once again, that, culturally relevant questions, but also maybe even culturally relevant facilitators, because in our community, it's incongruent, to ask somebody, hey, here's all these questions about you, but you can't know anything about me, at all. And so, but even that of looking at having, Indigenous facilitators potentially do this as well, and maybe give some community partners a chance to boost a resume or learn how to do some assessments, or community partners to get out there as well too. So that's all I have.
That's a really great thought, and one we've been thinking about a little bit. And one of the outreach techniques we've been talking about, and that when we request like someone to help us really run that process that we're considering, is something called study circles, where instead of staff providing the facilitation or a team of government employees providing the facilitation, we seek out community facilitators who basically bring together like a book club, but it's more active than a book club. And then we help them prepare like meetings in a box where they take this topic to their book group and they work through an exercise together, or they work through how they want to talk about the topic. And then at the end, they all come together in a conference. But that gives one thing that I think, and I heard from council that they're really interested in understanding how study circles could be used in this collaborative setting, is that it gives people an opportunity to create safe spaces that they are comfortable in, and that are people who create a safe environment for conversations that might be difficult. What's hard about these conversations is there's lots of unknowns and lots of things we love about the community and lots of things we would change, and finding places for those can be really meaningful. And so that's one of the techniques we're considering, and your comment makes me feel even maybe a little more strongly that it might be a really good one to keep pursuing, though it's not the only one. And part of what we're going to ask is that community members, if you know people who have some of those facilitation skills that could be brought into processes like that, so subcontractors or through the compensation policy, if we get to the point where we have one of those, helping our team network with those folks will also be another way that you can help. I see Commissioner Marks has his hand up as well.
So this might be a two-part. First would be the question. So a question could be, what does the San Francisco Peaks mean to you, Sarah? Right? And then I could ask the same question to Rose. What does the San Francisco Peaks mean to you, Rose? The response that you're going to get is probably going to be very different from you, Sarah, to you, Rose. And I really appreciate Commissioner Yellowhair's comment about bringing in facilitation. Brings to mind the understanding within Indigenous community that if you call upon somebody to participate, such as if we were in this space and we were all in the same room and I reached out and I said, Joe Washington, can you please offer the prayer, even without having organized that or presented that to him prior to the meeting, out of responsibility, out of respect, Commissioner Washington would probably step forward and say, yes, I can offer a prayer, right? You could also do something similar where you're saying, can we ask for some facilitation? Here are the key guiding points. Here's what we're looking for, because now you're getting input from the community, directly from the community, and they get to engage in the process the way that they want to engage in the process. That's my prayer.
Thank you. I could see Rose was typing something. I don't know if you want to, if anyone else has other thoughts to add, I'm sure you've got other agenda items to keep working on, but I'm really grateful for your time today and for your input on this. It sounds like Commissioner Marks and I are going to be trying to touch base this week. And I thank you all for your time, and I hope we'll have many of these conversations as we work through updating the regional plan and creating this guidance for the community.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate your coming here, taking your time, and just getting us started from the very get-go. I think that's really important, and also it also brings a more respectful thought in the way that you're doing your work in trying to make sure that the Indigenous Commission is involved from the beginning.
Well, thank you all for taking the time to have this conversation and to reflect on where we're headed. So thank you, Rose.
Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is National Code Talker Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, and Native American Heritage Month. Rose.
Okay, hold on a second. So the Commissioner Marks, did you want to ask something, or is that just your hand up still? Like Jonathan always has his arms up.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So this is where I'm trying to see if I can get maybe an informal work group from you so that we can start planning something like this regarding the National Navajo Code Talker Day, which is on Sunday on August 14th, as well as Indigenous Peoples Day on the 10th of October, and then Native American Heritage Month in November. And the reason why I'm wanting to get you all more involved is so that we can start planning ahead, and so that you're more involved with these activities, so you can also be either involved in the activities or be helpful in getting the word out about them. So that's my thought. I just need some discussion and direction from you and see if you're able to be part of the informal work group.
I am open to participating.
Thank you, Commissioner Marks. Appreciate it. And I'll go ahead and ask the rest of the commissioners too. And I know we have, I believe, half of our people who are not here. And we can do probably some things with the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council too, depending on what we can get together, as well as maybe if Commissioner Toya might want to see if there's interest at NACA as well. Maybe we can get a work group together that way.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
So you're all up for maybe working together for these events?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
I
I
think it sounds great.
definitely am.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much. While we're on this topic, is there maybe some ideas you might have around this, or do you just want to stew a little bit about it until we get a group together?
Yeah, a lot of dancing, singing, and food.
Okay.
Rose, for the National Code Talkers Day, the gentleman you met at the Veterans Stand Down, Randall Small Canyon, his grandfather was a code talker, and so he's really like engaged in that community. And so if there is something we want to do for that day, I can definitely contact him and see, because they would do events like every year, for them. So.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you. That sounds really good. So yeah, just maybe just have their contact ready, and then we'll see what we can do in a couple of weeks or so when we get a group together. From this group, who wants to be a part of that? I know that Commissioner. So the trick is not to have a quorum. So of the 7 voting members, we can only have 3 at the most. So right now I have, it sounds like Commissioner Marks and Commissioner Toya, maybe?
Yeah, I'm available to help with this, but should anybody else want to join in for this particular one, I'm more than willing to also give my seat up for like say if there was someone from that tribe. So just keeping an open mind and an open table for all. Thank you.
Okay. For, and I know that Commissioner Yellowhair had said, okay, but I'm not sure if he means to be a participant or not.
Yeah, I can participate in that capacity.
Okay.
I'm looking at networking, and so I can help out. So.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So any other commissioners thinking about it or not? Okay, I'll ask the others, but the 3 of you is fine. And then I'll go ahead and see what I can do with getting other members, other people, and maybe Fawn or Jonathan, maybe you can ask some individuals when you have your meetings at NALCA to see if they're interested.
Sure. We can he can do or mention to who he feels like. Then I can also run it by Dorothy if she's interested being the interim CEO and participating on this event.
We also have an all staff training coming up next month, and so we can potentially put it on the agenda and see if we can discuss it.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. As far as okay. Well, do you want to go ahead and just wait until we have our first informal meeting or informal work group meeting to discuss how we want to roll this out? And that will be probably in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, in time to make sure that we have plenty of time for the first one, which is going to be in August. And then the other reason why I want to do this is because I've been asked to serve on a panel in Canada regarding what we've done here in Flagstaff and uplifting our Indigenous voices and how that all came to be. So that's going to be in September. So I need some help in getting these things together so that I don't have to be pressured to work all the way through till I have to travel. So appreciate it. Okay, so I'll be in touch in about 2 or 3 weeks, and let you, well, actually probably in a couple weeks, so that we can set a meeting in about 3 weeks. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Commissioner Washington, back to you.
Okay, our next item is Commissioner resignation. Rose?
Okay, so Dorothy, Commissioner Dishy had provided her resignation on May 12th. And her position is an ex officio position, as she is part of Indigenous Peoples Advisory Council with the county. So our MOU with the county is that we have 3 ex officio members that will serve on the Indigenous Commission. And so with that being said, it also says that the person has to live outside of city limits, and they also are enrolled in a federally recognized or state recognized nation. So that means I looked at our list for IPAC, and there's no other person that is, excuse me, that is a county resident. So that means we'll have to recruit someone. IPAC will have to recruit someone into their membership that can serve on Indigenous Commission. So that might take maybe a couple months, 3 months maybe or so, to get somebody recruited, somebody appointed by the Board of Supervisors, and then able to apply for Indigenous Commission. So that is, it takes time to do that. So I imagine we won't have anyone on board until maybe September, October, if everything goes well. So if you have anybody that you know that can serve on the IPAC Advisory Council, please ask them to get in touch with Susie Gerritsen or Sharon Doctor, so that they're able to go through their application process. Any questions?
No questions.
I have a question, sorry.
Okay.
Quickly, so I was invited to submit an application to IPAC, and I'm sorry, I was kind of not truly focused, but am I not allowed, or would I not be able to submit my application for that?
You can be on any group that you want to be on. There's nothing that says that you can't be on there.
Okay.
So
All right, because yeah, they did ask me to apply, and I didn't. Well, that's supposed to be before Dorothy left, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, you can apply, and really it's up to the supervisors to appoint. So if they have several applications, they can, it'll be up to them to appoint.
Okay, and I'm glad it was one of them who invited me. Thank you.
Okay. On the other end of that is, so the commissioner or the person that would be on our commission under the memorandum of understanding, would that person has to be a member of IPAC?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That answers my question. Okay, if there's nothing further on this topic, we'll go to the possible change in start time of commission meetings.
All right. So I brought this up because we currently have 2 commissioners, and I'm not sure if they are still in that situation, but I'd like to have their input on it. And we have 2 commissioners, which is Commissioner Yellowhair and Commissioner Kabodi Adekai, who are not able to join our meetings sometimes until 12 o'clock because of other obligations. And so I wanted to make sure that they're able to be afforded the time to attend. And I hope that does not interfere with other commissioners who have to be off at 1 o'clock. And from the last poll, it seemed like they were flexible, but I just wanted to just feel, have you have a discussion on this and make sure that it is okay, at least for the ones who are here. And then I can find out from the others in the next few days to see if that is okay. So I'll put it in, so I'll just leave it to the 2 commissioners that I'm hoping this will help.
Hey, Rose.
Yeah.
Thank you for thinking of me. So right now I'm not in school now, and that's why I couldn't be on at 11. So if it needs to stay at 11, I can jump on at 11 or closer to 11 now. But starting in August, when we go back to school, it'll go back to the way it was before. So, but I'm all summer I'm able to jump on at 11, 12, 1, whatever time. But I am like still busy with kids and everything, so I'll jump on and I'll listen, but I'll also be like somewhat distracted just because I watch kids Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 all summer. So but I'll still jump on when I can, and it's usually like their lunchtime and we're just kind of relaxing in the woods and eating stuff. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Man, Rose just puts me on the spot.
I know, Yash, go for it.
So for me, I've talked about it with my work. We have, so the context of why I can't is I have a meeting, why I have group supervision. And so as therapists, under an associate license, you have to have supervision for 2 years in order to get fully licensed. And so, and part of that is the group dynamic for therapists. And so every Wednesday at 11, we meet for an hour, like the entire behavioral health unit. And so, and I talked with my boss about it, and it's something that can't budge because we'd have to reschedule everybody, but also too, he's like, it is something you need to be there for because it is applicable towards your licensure. So, for me, unfortunately, I can't really be flexible with that. So yeah, that's the context of kind of what's impeding me from being here for half of these sessions. And I do apologize for not being here for half of them too. I do look forward to the meetings and everything. And so
I think with that in mind, I think we should move to 12. Would that affect any others? Would there be people who would be expecting to end the meeting at 1 who would now end the meeting at 2? Does that adversely affect anyone else? It doesn't affect me because I have usually control over setting of hearings and stuff like that. So would it affect anyone else adversely? Meg has her hand up. Okay.
Whoops, I
Say that again, Meg. Yours is big. You're a little bit.
Well, this is Commissioner Toya, and from my experiences with the meetings and having to wait and some meetings not happening, I'd like to make a motion right now to move the meetings from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. if everybody's okay with that.
Okay, is there a second?
We need to check with the rest of the commissioners before we make it permanent.
Okay.
So they're not.
Who are we lacking?
We are lacking Commissioner White Hat, Commissioner Weathersby, and Commissioner Cuddy-Eye. And Cora's available, but she, for some reason, can't answer. I mean,
Okay.
she can hear
Yeah.
us, but she can't answer us.
Okay, so do you want to email all of us about that and see what they all say, or how do you want to do that?
Yes, we can. I can do that, and we can let you know, and then I'll check into see if we can. I'll check on the process procedures and
Okay.
get back to you on it to see if we can do something by email or not, just for this one item.
Okay, sounds good.
Could we make it tentative? Could there be a tentative motion to set the next meeting at 12, unless there are problems with it?
I think we can do, yes, we can do that. We can make one meeting starting at 12, and then we can see and just have a full vote on it if possible, depending on what I find out about procedure.
That sounds
Okay.
like a plan. I like that.
So do you want to make that motion, Fawn?
Sure, I make a motion that the next Indigenous Commission meeting be at 12 p.m.
Is there a second? I'll second it. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it, and our next meeting will be at 12.
All right. Well, that's all I have.
Okay.
Now you're down to 7.
Okay. Are there any informational items from commissioners, staff, or any requests for future agenda item requests?
I have some informational items.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's informational and it's a comment in regards to our report that some of the commissioners did come together and have various meetings to go over the work of the commission from the past 2 years. I like to commend some of the people that did show up on, different hours of the days, taking time out from their work, and especially Kara Withersby for taking the role on providing the data, the time, her work into the report. We all met, but she did take on the load for all of us, and I want to say to her, Ascoli, I know she's not here, but put it on note and make it a record that I did appreciate her work, and standing beside her and Meg and Rose at that meeting at the city council was very, very, very straightening to my soul, and I'm quite those that were there with me, that our work is very important to the community and to the people and to those that we provide the information to, and that we should all do our work and diligently and gracefully, because not only are we voices for ourselves, but for all our relatives and a lot of the community members that who do not have a voice. So I just wanted to say that and commend everybody's great work and continue to do the great work. Thank you all, and have a blessed day.
Thank you for that comment, Fawn.
You're welcome.
Are there any other informational items? If not, then we will adjourn the meeting.
Joe?
Yes.
The only other thing I think we're working on, or I'm working on getting Judge Reed to come and talk about the drug court.
Oh, excellent.
All right, so that could be on our next agenda if I can work it out.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And then also want to see if we can recognize some people who have been with in our meeting. I believe some jumped off, but Deanne, if you can introduce yourself, that would be really great.
Sorry, I'm struggling with my mute key.
Okay.
I'm Deanne Bagwert, and I am a part of the Commission on Diversity Awareness. I just was interested in the kinds of issues and so forth that the Indigenous Commission is considering. So thank you for letting me listen.
Thank you for being here.
I want to share something quickly. I challenged myself recently. I did apply for a job at the Coconino County Pathways Program, which is a health worker under the county. So I'll be doing a digital interview, and if all goes well, they are planning hopefully to offer me a job maybe by this week. And if so, my last day here, I might and will say possibly June 24. Thank you.
Thank you, Fawn, for letting us know that. Okay, I guess that's it. So I will now adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
And the time is 12:37.
Bye,
Bye, all.
everybody.
Good night.
We're going to